Good morning, everybody. Welcome to day three. Very much appreciate everybody being here this morning. We're going to conclude with three just amazing sessions, and I'm glad you're all here for it. Our first panel discussion will be Emerging Technologies, War Stories from the Startup Journey and Tech Trends, and the moderator for this is the one and only Barry Hudson. Barry, it's all you.
Good morning. Is the microphone working? Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, it's a little bit sparse this morning. We're just thinking maybe we should have held this session on 6th Street. Perhaps most people are still there. So this panel about startups and emerging technologies and the hiccups, etc. I'd like the panel just to go through and introduce yourselves and tell us what makes you so special that you can be up here this morning.
Sure. I don't know the answer to the last one, but I will say, so my name is Manny Tejano. I'm with Rocket Start, a company that I founded in 2020. So,
I'm Mark Adkinson. I'm with DeLacy Brothers in Oklahoma City, and I'm on this panel because Barry asked me.
My name is Håkan Holmgren. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Checkproof, and coming all the way from Sweden, and worked previously with Barry in Heidelberg.
Yeah, that's where you had your first startup experience, and I thought you were crazy. Anyway, so I've got some questions here. Obviously, we have a couple of startups, and we have somebody that works for a large privately held company. The reason that we invited Mark onto the panel was he is the recipient of the pain of startups a lot of times, and we just wanted to kind of get rather than just talk to startups, talk to the people that are either benefit or are the victims of some of the issues that we go through. I'm particularly well suited to talk about startups. I've had a couple of myself, and they're certainly not easy, certainly in this industry. I think one of the most startling points that I found when I first started working in the US many, many years ago, there was a concrete council called the Strategic Development Council, and I went to their very first meeting, and they were talking about how long it takes to get a product to market in the concrete industry from conception. On average, it was 17 years. I'm like, wow. Anyway, so we've got some curly questions here, and looking forward to audience participation at the end. But first question. What's the one mistake that nearly killed your startup, and why did it happen?
all right, everyone's looking at me. All right. Sure. Yeah, that's a doozy one. So thanks, Barry, for that. So I would say the one decision, I'm going to think of a lot of decisions, who do it. So just, I guess, before I kind of answer that question, I'm going to talk about my journey a little bit. So I worked since 2005 as a IT manager, or IT really, I was a person that fixed printers and computers and things like that for a vertically integrated construction materials business. And I thought, okay, I'm a tech guy. I have a computer engineering background. This is kind of like a stepping stone. But 15 years into that, I didn't leave. Ended up falling in love with the industry. Really like to be engaged with folks that are, just very hardworking people that are making and building the world around us. Like, who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to be a part of that? So, but the other reason why is I saw opportunity. I saw that, oh, cool, there's technology here. And as a sector of business, construction is only ahead of, is behind every level, only ahead of agriculture, as far as how much tech money is spent every year on average, things like that. So I look at that as opportunity. So as I went into management and different things, I had the ability to, and I'm also a gamer, so I also love to game, things like that. But I'm also like a cheerleader. I love to just keep people on task and keep going. And that's kind of where I founded my idea about trying to get people motivated and, basically, I said it yesterday, created fantasy sports for our workplace, for our workers. So you could have stats and follow through and be able to see your contributions through some data and also some badges that your management could give, make work exciting, have leaderboards and things like that. So I would say as we kind of form the business and had the good idea, had a good background, had my engineering background, my passion for this industry, and leaving my company to do this, I was like, okay, great. So if I make it, they'll come, right? That's just how it works, right? And certainly not. A lot's involved into that. We had a great product initially, even better product now, but learn a lot of things along the way. And just because you have a good idea, it doesn't always equate to, here's your pathway to success, right? You still got to find it out. You still got to be able to hone your how you deliver, how you're doing things. So I would say that as far as my impression or my thoughts about how I kind of came across, and we're obviously very excited to have 700 users on our app and being able to continue to grow the business. But it wasn't as easy as if you build it, they'll come. So that was the biggest thing that I learned. So.
Yeah, I think this one is a hard one, like what nearly killed your startup. I think when you're like presenting a system like ours, and it's a big change of behavior and a big culture change when you roll it out and get people to do things. And we had one case where we didn't involve the IT manager, and then he was going negative against us because of that. So the importance of getting everybody on board when you should do this. But that is also super hard when you're a small company and just starting up and knowing, okay, what are the play rules here? And we had that case also. Mm-hmm. That happened also when we started in an early stage in Sweden with Heidelberg also, where more or less Checkproof was almost thrown out. And that could have changed the journey where we are on now if we didn't continue with that. But the most important there was that actually the user were pushing that they really wanted to have it and saw the value. So we have been a little bit on a lot of places during our journey. We've been starting like from the front line and from the site manager and 4 months, and then it been growing in, so it's not stoppable. And that's been like historically. Now we're bigger, we can go on higher level and do top down instead. But that's been like the journey with Checkproof.
Yeah, and my experience, and I was talking to some colleagues, is that a lot of times when you have a new product and you go along to a company and they say, show me who else is using it, right? Somebody's got to be the first, right? So it's really, really important that you have like a sponsor company or a company that, will take that first leap of faith with you. And I think that's probably one of the hardest things in the startup. And if I look at the current environment, that I'm in with XBE, right? So XBE got a company called Superior Bowen to come on board, and they loved it and helped them grow and invest in those types of things. BCMI with IMI, they got involved and really helped out. And Price B, we had Peckham Industries, that would sit there and they could see the potential, and they knew that they had to invest more than just the money that you were asking for your subscription fee.
Barry, let me ask you this as a startup as you came in. When Peckham, you said Price B partnered with you. Did you partner with them in that they would help you develop your product to make it better, or did you just present a package to them?
Presented a package to them, but they made it a partnership. They understood that we were developing something new. They liked the concept of what it would be at the end. And helped us out. Didn't pay us any extra or whatever, but just made the journey a lot simpler, because you don't know what you don't know, and I think it's really, really difficult, especially in software, right, to make that first leap of faith. So yeah, to all the producers out there, if you see something you think you like, give them a bit of a leg up, I think. What's the next question here? Sorry. So, what is the most overhyped technology you wasted your time or money on?
Oh my goodness. So, kind of an interesting, here, because we're always talking about evolving with AI and things like that, right? So. For me, right now, I know there's still a lot of technology to be made, and there's some ideas that our team have to kind of evolve. I'm a little bit of a unique case, right, where I don't have a lot of, for my technology, with engaging with people. I guess I didn't realize because I wanted to be able to, use something that everyone would use, like drivers and, managers and things like that. Just, just being a part of the Google Play and Apple Store and having to deal with like all their restrictions to be a part of their thing. So that was kind of a unique challenge to realize, okay, if we're gonna play this game that everyone's gonna use, right? Like, we got to change our software, and there's got to be some updates here because there's some compliance issues, and potentially the way how things are with data restrictions in Europe is maybe a little bit different here, So I wouldn't say that like, I don't really have a good story about that, but what I would say was that was a shock for me when we wanted to use something that everybody uses and be able to be on a platform to what we had to do to upgrade our back end to get everything compliant and things like that. It's like, wow, okay, this is a game changer for us as an organization, but we did what we had to do to make that compliant and work, but not really a fun story. But
Well, for us, I know there are a lot of AI vendors in the room, but right now, for my company, that's an overhyped technology. It's not because it's wrong or it's ahead of its time. It's because we have, this is just my opinion, we at the executive level's not there yet. If I can't get them to buy in, it's a waste of time for us. I'm not sure how to overcome that, because if you have an executive level that have been in the business for decades, they crush rock on my side of the business. They have ready mix too, but it's hard to get them to buy into the vision. And of course they hear it everywhere they go, every meeting they go to, every conference they go to, they hear that. Just not sure. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a waste of time, but in the current situation it is for us. It's going to take years for us to get them there.
For us at Checkproof was like really in the early days because we were all producing an app, and then it was iOS, of course, Android, but then out there was also Windows. One of our bigger clients was really forcing us, you should have a Windows app. And that took hell a lot of money and time to do it, and you just throw it in the garbage bin after a while. So that was one of the big, where we put a lot of time or effort and really get a headache to get it solved. And when we had it, it was like half a year, and then it was gone.
Yeah, we had the problem with Prize B where we chose the wrong tech stack at the beginning, so we had to start afresh, and that obviously time and money, and it's not as easy as it looks, right?
And like if you look at refactoring and build it again, and also if you talk with developer, when you have a development team, we have over like 30 people now that's working, and it's always like they have always different opinion. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then you need to, on this startup journey, learn which one could you trust and what will be the best. And then also you have the like IT security with all the like, okay, we need to upgrade. We need to do this all the time to be on top of everything.
Yeah, and it's a great point, because we went down, we had to completely rebuild, right, from scratch. And that was because we had a tech lead that said we needed this particular stat, and we went down there, right, and it was wrong. So yeah, those types of things really, really hurt. Next question, guys. If you had to fire yourself from your own company for one bad decision, what would it be?
Just one, huh?
and Mark, you need to be a little careful on this question.
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned buy-in earlier. I had a project. It's been about 5 years ago. It was one of the first major projects I worked on. I thought I had buy-in from the proper parties, but as others have mentioned, somebody, and I never know who, literally got their panties in a wad, and they started throwing up roadblocks, and everything they did was bad-mouthing it. The reason I say it would be a fireable for me was we spent a lot of money on that project, and it never came to fruition.
So I have a similar story. It's kind of funny. So again, I was an IT director for many years, 15 years, and ultimately I became, the person that gave me a heart attack, a vendor, right? A software innovator, right? So what I remembered, kind of like one of those stories too, is one of my things is I put in an ERP system for our company, and that was a good exercise of patience and understanding the business and things like that, I was very confident that this is going to work. This is going to be great. I fought with the owner of the company. It says we're ready to do this. We're good to go January 1st. This is awesome. We've vetted out everything. We've got concurrent systems just in case stuff were to happen. And he said no. And I got mad. I got very mad, and it was like, you don't trust me? You know, I kind of made it like, no. Like, you know, he's been doing business for a long time. There's a lot of things here just we don't know yet. Even as much as research as you do, and anybody that's ever been through an ERP project understand that. So I got mad, and 2 months later, I was like, went to his office and says, you're 1,000% right for making that call. We discovered so many things that we didn't consider or refactor, and we're just happy to have just spend the time to look at that now without the pressures of being able to do that. So, you know, sometimes double check and triple check your calculations is only as good, almost it doesn't matter, but almost experience and having that wherewithal and understanding how things just happen and things that you can't predict. I think that was a good lesson for me, and yeah, definitely one of those things where if I look at that now and be like, the hell you're doing? You should have waited a year. You know?
Was that the reason he said no, or did he have other reasons for saying no, and it was just serendipitous that you found what you did?
So, I mean, good question. But because when I would ask him or press him, like, why not? You know, and he says, but his answer was, we don't know yet. You know, it was like, we don't know, why not yet. You know, so, but so it was interesting. He just always says, whatever you can, and he knows I'm kind of fast. So it's like, whatever you do, just take a minute, you know, before we make some significant changes, and let's do that. And
What was your timeline, project timeline?
so again, for me, I said, oh yeah, I could get an ERP system set up in 6 to 8 months. That's fine. That's good. Vertically integrated business, concrete, asphalt, aggregate operations.
That's ambitious.
Absolutely.
Having done ERPs.
Yeah. It was again, we had a sales rep that made me believe into it, you know, that made me think that this could happen, right? So I also drank the Kool-Aid a little bit, but we spent a lot of hours just trying to make it happen. But you know, it was a good, interesting exercise, and you know, I learned a lot from it.
It's a hard question. I've been thinking of this.
I don't mean to be easy, Hagen.
No, that's good. No, but I think like when you're in the early stage, to be focused on what you're trying to solve, because we have been running on, like we have today, like 28 other industries that use it. But it's so easy that you start to run away, and because it's potential big deal there, or getting a lot of ARR, that you're not getting the focus. So that's something that we're really working on now. Like, okay, it is construction material and heavy industry. So you really prioritize the right thing with the resources that you have. But then also, if you look at this tech stack discussion, that we have to learn to listen to a lot of people and not just listen to certain individuals when you take the decision what you will develop and how you do it, so you get the most out of it. So it's
Yeah, I think you know, a similar type of thing that we found is that, you know, you go to the big, bright, shiny object, you know, so you'll get some of the major international corporates show interest, and you're like, wow, this would be great if I can, you know, pull in Heidelberg or Holcim or whatever, and you end up spending a lot of time and resource on those large companies, and you're a small company, and they just bleed you dry, and then at the end of the day, they're too smart and they do it themselves, you know. So that was always been an issue I hear from a lot of startups in this industry. So next question, what is the ugliest truth you discovered about the construction materials industry only after you entered it?
I was born in it, so I have hard to answer that one. Really hard one to answer for me.
And you are ugly.
I'm ugly also, so thanks for that, Barry.
I started with Delisi 8 years ago. I came from oil and gas, and before that I worked for state government. You would think state government was ossified, but I found out what that truly meant when I came into the construction industry. It was amazing to me how much I saw from all levels of, we've always done it this way, why should we change? It works. And to me, I can't speak for anyone else's company. I know big companies and small companies could work differently. But that to me was a surprise because I'm used to meeting with champions of your projects or decision makers, and this was a whole nother world for me, and it had to change. I had to change my thinking going forward as an IT advisor as to how I approached projects and what I knew would fly and what I knew would be wonderful for the company, but I didn't stand a ghost of a chance of getting anyone to champion it.
Bring an interesting point. So, this is my first job out of college is going into this industry. So, I learned a lot about it. I learned a lot about what, I wasn't raised in it like you were, but it was, very interested about a couple of things. The dynamic that you talked about is, we never did this before. We always done this before this way, things like that. It speaks of two things. So one, that the industry has been ultimately, we've been doing, making big rocks into little rocks, things like, we've been doing the same thing over and over again for a long time. And usually when someone says that, it's because no one's told us that we're doing it wrong, right? We haven't had it, we're not, so why change things, right? Why is there? So that was a very interesting thing as someone that's younger and trying to look at technology or improvements. It was always met with like, well, this is what we always did, and okay, that's great, but can we always make it better? Can we do this? But I'm also going against like years and years of success or what works, so that was interesting, dealing with that mindset. And then now as I'm kind of talking to other producers and other companies and other, folks out there, I think just, having to engage, we have this information of, technology people, we know what the problems are, but sometimes we don't always agree what the solutions are. So that's okay, but that for me, I had to kind of understand that just because we're in the same industry, we don't necessarily look at business the same way. We don't always look at success the same way. I mean, money is always a good indicator, but it's not for everybody. And I think that was also unique as I kind of went on my own. So.
One thing I do want to add, some of you may know Mark Helm, who's our CEO. He's been deeply involved in NSSGA, and for the last 4 years, he has been dragging DeLisi Brothers, kicking and streaming, into the 21st century. And I can't begin to imagine some of the struggles he's had, but he has made it non-negotiable. We will go digital. So he started a project called the DeLisi Digital Evolution. I love it. I think IT has full buy-in. Some of the executives that didn't have full buy-in are no longer with the company, so that tells you where he wants to go as a CEO. And I'm very optimistic. Long run, it's just the short run stuff sometimes that gets a little frustrating.
Okay, everyone says AI is transforming construction. Where is it actually working today, and where is it just pure smoke?
For us, we have built a lot of integration to like sensors. That's like smart sensor that start to feel when something starts to break down. We talked about sensor with the AI engine yesterday also. And we have a couple of cases that run that fully, and it really works well. It's crazy that you can catch this, and really the downtime that could have happened, you prevent it by having those sensors and then triggering routines that somebody go and check it. It could be a spillage to a tail drum that you catch, so the belt doesn't cast in too. And those technology really works well, I would say.
Where is it pure smoke?
That's a good question also.
Perhaps, Mark, you're probably the most qualified to answer this one. I mean, you're the victim.
I agree with the con about what I call the Internet of Things and the sensors and everything, because DeLisi has 100% buy into that, and we're investing some serious money into that type of technology, automating our plants, getting that data. I guess for us, it's still smoke in that I think AI would be very good with data analysis. We're just not there yet. I see, and of course, since AI is the thing, everyone says we have AI this and AI that, and for us, it's not, you have to be careful what you're promising with AI if you're a vendor, because sometimes people will hear that and then they'll just immediately throw up all sorts of roadblocks. As we all know, AI is very expensive. You've got some investment there if you're going to do it and do it right for a company our size. I don't say I would ever say it's smoke. It's just that it just not quite there yet.
So I'm going to just open up a question here, but does anybody know how old ChatGPT is? Like, without looking at your phones. You know, anyone want to throw out a number? How old? 7 years, 8 years. So where it became public, you know, if you, and go ahead and verify this, tell me if I'm wrong or not, but as soon as it is able to turn on and you've been able to use it, it's only 2 years and 10 months. The reason why I say that is we have changed. I feel like there's been AI panels for way longer than that, and I'm sure there were, but it just shows you that how quickly we've changed, our approach and everything. It's affecting people's lives. Like our industry, we could talk about that. Other industries, I mean, it's replacing people. It's being able to rediscover what they're doing, repurpose people. But I would, from a smoke screen or smoke, whatever the terminology used is, it's still relatively new. It's still relatively untapped. But what I just always warn is I'm in the, people engagement business and HR business and stuff is, okay, well, what does this mean for our folks? What does it mean for how we define our everyday roles and could do it better? So I always kind of, deal with people that are talking about, what does this mean for me, and what does it mean for our business and what does it look like? So I think that sometimes I understand that fear, right? I do also want to say, as someone that's, involved in business and things like that, we're just to, take a step back for a second, right? Have some patience here. Let's figure out how to use this tool, just like the calculator, just like we went from, horse-drawn carriages to cars, all these evolutions and all these changes. It's happening now, but it doesn't happen overnight. And we are kind of, coming across to a lot of different inflection points right now. So I think it's interesting.
Let me ask the room, it's a question I had. How would you define AI? Are you talking about large language models? Are you talking about something else? Because I think AI means different things to different people. So as you're talking about AI, be careful to define it to your audience.
It's a good comment, Mark. So construction is slow to change, we all know that. And this kind of reflects on some of the panel comments yesterday. How do you tell the difference between a market that's not ready yet and one that never will be?
So we talked about the change and thing earlier, so it's kind of interesting. But what I would say is this, right? So my previous presentation, you guys might have heard me. I said that the workforce is now, as of this year, it's now millennials and Gen Z are 55% of the workforce, right? So when you talk about folks that are slow to adapt or slow to change, you're just not going to get people to come work for you or come put work or do what you want them to do. So that's kind of what I advise when I look at it, and you're looking at companies looking 5, 10, 20 years down the line of wanting to be able to continue to do this and provide materials for our various jobs and projects is we got understanding the evolution of the workforce. The fact that, I have a 6 and a 9-year-old and they know how to use the tablet and iPads, and they're already at school getting badges and points for learning and school stuff. And it's amazing at an early age that these are just standard tools. In a lot of cases, an iPad is probably considered high tech. An iPad is probably what's on someone's trucks and things like that, and they think that, we got high technology. So that's one example where I read a study. 91% of Gen Zers report that they will not be that they will be interested in working with companies in tech that have or utilize technology. So the inverse of that, only 9% would put up with companies that feel like that they're using antiquated equipment and antiquated technology. So what I will say this is, even though patience is always a virtue, and I understand that, there's also things that we have to do and rise as far as what we do as as an industry and a workforce to be able to help and appeal to next generation of workers. So.
Yeah, I think it's hard question to answer, but it's a hard industry to digitalize for sure. We have been having cases where it's been, like I'd say, we will do a pilot with a customer and they take a grumpy old man that's like, I don't need any software. And we have actually transformed that guy. That we have a Swedish case where he was standing on the stage and tell how good it was when he learned to use it because he saw the benefit. But it is to get the people on board, and is why we should do it. That I think is the most important. Why should we do it? And also be communicating with them what value it brings. That I think is the most important to get the change, but it's hard.
Got anything to add, Mark? Okay.
Skip that one.
Skip that one? Okay. Understand. Which current must-have technology based in, which must-have current technology trend in construction materials will be completely irrelevant in 5 years?
You guys want to chime in on that one?
When you sent the question, I was thinking of this one, but I didn't come up with any that's like, which one is unrelevant?
Yeah, in 5 years, not today.
Yeah, but in 5 years.
Well, you're tempted to say paper, printing, but you still have a lot of people that will not do it any other way.
Right.
So in 5 years, maybe paper will still be around. We keep saying we're going to phase it out. I love to read. I have thousands and thousands of books. I have never been able to get into reading on a tablet. My wife bought me one back when Barnes & Noble did the Nook, and she bought some books for it, and that was all wonderful, but I just couldn't get into it. Now, yes, I am of an age. My coworkers are a lot younger than me. They probably think about, I'm reading this book on a tablet, but I think paper will still be around.
But if we ask the audience, what do you think? Does anybody have any things that you think will not be there in 5 years? What? Fax machines.
Yeah.
Do you still have them here in North America?
Yes.
I
hope so
have
too, by the
chicks.
way. Okay.
David, could you elaborate on that?
I think that we're going to be able to get aerial imagery from services that you don't have to be involved with within 5 years.
Yes.
From beyond line of sight, autonomous drones to low orbit satellites.
Yeah. I have a peer of mine that's in the satellite business, and that is also a very absolutely true thing. It's getting cheaper and cheaper to run, these satellite imagery type of stuff. So I 100% actually agree with you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, what was the comment over here? I didn't quite catch it.
With current estimating tools, which are basically manual entered glorified Excel sheets.
Yeah.
Okay. 100%.
Yeah, from my side too, at Price B, we generate a hell of a lot of data, right, and do fantastic analysis and use Power BI to visualize. But what we find is that our clients don't really understand it. So I'm thinking that those data visualization tools won't be used quite so much. I think the application of AI over the data to come back and give very simple hints or suggestions as to what should be done to fix the situation. Because what we see is that even with the beautiful reports and analysis, you almost have to analyze them again to figure out what's going on. And I think that people respond a lot better to just here's a suggestion on how to improve your business today, rather than look at all these lovely dashboards and stuff and kind of figure out. So I know when we do that with our customers, we get a lot faster improvement. So whether or not that's something that will kind of take over, I think it will. I think it's actually getting instructions and telling you what to do rather than, you know, trying to figure it out yourself. What's that, sorry?
Less solid, more abstract. I was saying this is a hint to
When you have a microphone, you should put it to your mouth, David.
Come on.
All right, okay. What I'm saying is when you take that step where, okay, we collect data and we want to use data, we want to do these things, and now you're talking about actually stepping away from the data, going into an abstract and saying this is how you should do something better, but I'm not giving you the actual information as to why.
Yeah, but why did you collect the data in the first place? You collected the data so that you can make better decisions,
Yeah,
right? So what I'm saying is that the decision that you should make would be presented to you rather than graphs and tables and things like that.
yeah.
Well, David, along the lines of some personal concern of mine with AI is that you've got to make sure the audience understands what you're giving them, because do they have enough knowledge to know the truth?
Sure.
Do they trust it? We've seen lots of instances with ChatGPT and other large language models giving some very off-the-wall answers. That was sort of back to my point of getting executive buy-in. And back there. No, it was back to back.
Mark, I try to have skipped to answer your question, what is AI, but as it turns around in circles, I can't skip that. So from our perspective or how we see the things, let's split that a little bit. AI encompasses at least 4 steps. That is perceived, process, reasoning. Reasoning in the sense of make something out of information, learn, adapt behavior over time based on input data, and act. All these 4 elements are in part of the AI, and depending what you do with it, you get one or the other or multiple. So if you look at what our colleague Dave Boardman does, that is definitely the perceive and the reasoning. And he's probably about to learn things out of what happens throughout the imagery. And then these systems that come out of that, they can be easily classified into 2, if not later 3 dimensions. Narrow AI, tools that are built or solutions that are built for one specific case. A broad AI, where you get something across domains. So it becomes almost human-like. And then you have what is commonly called AGI, artificial general intelligence. We are still away from that. And perception, and Sam Altman said something in the last 8 days, and I found that really interesting. The guy came around and said, in 2020, what ChatGPT does today would have been classified as AGI, where we all say, this is bullshit, man. But quite frankly, our perception, that is what you said, Manny, evolves continuously. It's a moving goalpost. So the only bit is, and sorry for hijacking that, but there's a little bit of education and we all have to go through that. I'm terribly sorry.
That's what I was trying to say, Thomas. If you define AI to your audience, is it narrow AI, AGI, whatever, it will go well, because you don't know what they think when you're talking to them. Unless you can ask them, they may not be able to articulate it.
Yeah.
I think we as technologists can define AI and slice it apart, but I think the genie's out of the bag, and your average everyday person is just going to call technology AI going forward.
Exactly.
And it's not our choice. It's like when people yell at me for calling concrete cement, and now I do it on purpose. It's what the consumers call it is what it is. And I think AI has been cemented, I'll use that word, in the minds of consumers through the billions of dollars of venture capital throwing marketing and scaring the hell out of everybody. And we're going to have to live with this ambiguous word AI, which I think is just going to mean technology going forward. And we're going to stop using the word technology and start using the word AI. And it's just going to mean everything to consumers. And it'll frustrate the hell out of us as technologists. But I think there's just a consumer adoption of AI to mean anything and everything that they interact with. My 2 cents.
That's a good point.
Not so much a question, but a comment you made about the inaccurate results out of a application called AI. My experience is that ChatGPT specifically has a native ability to understand and analyze certain things. For example, I can take a flow model of a plant process from primary crusher to stockpiled products. And it can analyze that image and give me back an explanation of what's the capability of the process. It can tell me what the apparent bottlenecks will be and suggest solutions for those bottlenecks. But it has no idea what the primary has to do with the secondary plant or the main production plant. You have to teach it that. So in terms of specific utilization of the tool, the I part has to come from you or somebody who knows what the process means. Do you have a surge pile after the primary? How big is the surge pile? How much live draw does the surge pile have? How many feeders does the surge pile have? What's the size of the screen on the finishing plant? What's the circulating load on that screen? What does it mean? How does it vary? How does the circulating load on the secondary screen compare to this circulating load on the tertiary crushing system? What yield of products are you chasing? Are you making a base product? Are you chasing asphalt and concrete stone? How do you measure those things, and where does that data come from? How frequently do you want me to tell you how well you're doing? And that's where the value comes from a generic approach to utilization of that magic AI. People forget that the I has to come from someplace, and that's you, the user, or others who can come in and analyze and project for you. And I'd like to show you something later if you have time.
That's fine, Alan.
Always selling, Alan. If you had to bet your company's survival on one emerging technology in construction materials, what
AI.
would it be? Okay, we're finished. We're finished.
Sorry.
Apart from your own software, which technology would you bet on?
Hakan and I have already talked about a little bit. He talked about sensors. I call it the Internet of Things, because right now in our industry, I think, at least for our company, we have all these discrete measurements and stuff. We need something, the sensors and whatever it is, to talk. And whether, Alan, it's AI that puts it all together for us, or it's up here in somebody's head. But either way, we have to get. So we're converting our plants. We're putting in these sensors and measurements on belt scales and wear and all the stuff that you guys all know about, so that management can make some intelligent decisions instead of making everything by seat of the pants.
I will agree. IoT is a really big thing for us, to building all the integration, to everything from integration from CAT, Volvo, Komatsu, to sensors, to belt weighers, to tire pressures that we look at, and getting all of that combined with operators. That, I think, is crucial for us, I think, and also to be the hub that everything streams into, to get one picture of how it's going in operation management. So,
Yeah, kind of same thing. Like, I absolutely love what you're doing, and how you're doing it too. And kind of going along with like what my interest is, right, which is about the people aspect, right, is like, wanting to gamify, right, and make sure people are on the right track of doing those tasks or doing those things. And then, making sure, from an education and engagement part, that we're all, understanding, what has to be done, and not only from the people that are doing it day to day, but also the people that are in the office, right? So having that transparency is going to be is very helpful. So I think there's a lot of good kind of collaboration that could be happening where, we're using technology to have sensors and to see what's going out on all these different parts and these things, but then we're also seeing, and training and guiding the people, that are doing it, and make sure it's being done correctly. and also but also correct it if it's not happening, right? So I think there's just a lot of potential there. It's pretty cool. So
And gamification is really powerful if you look at it that way. So, yeah, we have the case where we have all this IoT connection where all the idle time. We had some of our customer that had like monthly meetings. You have to reduce the idle time. Didn't work, and now we put in a gamification. So every time they do a refill, do a daily check, they get a scoreboard. Okay, you're one of 50 wheel loaders. And if you're the 50th one, they start to get behavior change because they start to talk in quarantine. It's like, hey Barry, you're not that good. You're the worst one here. And then you want to change to become better. So it's.
I got that yesterday's panel too. So
yeah, absolutely.
okay, well, I have another couple of tricky questions, but I think we're getting close to time. There's been lots of good feedback from the audience, but yeah, open it up to questions, please. Rachel.
Thanks. This goes actually to a number of points, including one of your first questions, whether you call it the biggest mistake made, challenge. Everyone knows the saying, if you would have asked Henry Ford, if you would have asked his customers what they wanted, he would have said they would have said faster horses. I think one of the biggest mistakes that I see repeated with technology solutions for this industry is expecting our customers to tell us what they need. Because first of all, there's a very big gap. Secondly, they have all different needs. Our job is to talk to them, to listen, to learn, to take that information back and then figure out what will really be useful and what will eventually get adopted. That's not their job. Our job is to get good information from them so that we can go figure it out.
Actually, that's been my job for the last 8 years as an IT advisor. Somebody said, what does that mean? It's exactly what you just said. I talk to the users, the operations people, and I know they say they need this, and I think, okay, well, how best to answer it? Then I go talk to you guys as vendors, and I go say, what's out there? And then I work with them and back, and then I can go back to operations and say, you say you need A, but this is what I'm hearing, and I understand you. Would you consider looking at this as a solution for it? As I said, it's been a struggle sometimes, but that's really what my job has been.
Yeah, and Rachel, that's a very good point. And the cliche about the faster horses, is very, very true. And even something as simple as pricing for us, it's very, very difficult to say to people, hey, there is a better way of determining pricing for construction materials than what you're doing today, which is typically gut feel. And I know Fred down the road, and my favorite question when you go into a customer and say, hey, about pricing, why do you sell your 57s at $20? Oh, because that's the market rate. And I go, fantastic. How do you know the market rate? Oh, that's because what the guy down the road sells.
That's what Martin sells it for.
Yeah, exactly. and then you go down and talk to the guy down the road and they say, what's the market rate? $20. Why? Because that's what your client sells it for. But that's okay. We'll take 50 cents off and get the job, and it becomes a race to the bottom. And I think that and particularly for us on pricing, it's very, very difficult to explain to people that there actually is a science behind it and many, many factors that you can take into account. But today they've got Billy Bob sits there and it's $20.
Well, Barry, I'll use you as an example because I was here last year at AggNexus, and I was convinced Price B was something DeLisi could use. So I went to our aggregate sales manager at the time, and he and I had a great relationship. We worked together a lot, and I could not get him to see the benefit of Price B. He knew how he priced because he'd been in the industry forever, and it's everything that you just described. And I could not get past that hurdle. Just couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, we have a large client on asphalt pricing, and the owner of the company. When I met the owner of the company, he said, "Oh, hi Barry, I've heard a lot about what you're doing." Yeah, he said, "But I don't get it." I said, "What do you mean you don't get it?" He goes, "The price of oil is the price of oil," and he just turned around and walked out the door. It's like, we know that there's 3 to 5% extra revenue, which is a massive number, if you take the emotion out and just use the data. And yeah, so it's a real challenge. It's something as basic as pricing. Yeah.
I want to add one more comment too to kind of tie in what your comment was. So I was, the IT guy. I was someone there. One comment I do want to make is, as I'm now on the other side and helping build emerging technology or things like that, the biggest thing I just want to say, and hopefully the reason why I was part of this panel too, to be honest with you, is I just want to give like encouragement out there, because if you do have a good idea, right, maybe it's specific to your business, but maybe it does, a lot of people would love it. A lot of people would like it. You're addressing or talking about things that no one else is doing. I do want to encourage people, if you have a great idea, if it's sounded in good technology and good thought, we're also in a very awesome industry where when I started my business, I have a lot of friends, made a lot of friends in this industry, believe what we're doing, and also knew me from, when I was, a technology guy and a consumer of their products. But I wouldn't have done it without the support. I mean, even for me being here, being invited to this conference, be able to speak. One thing I do want to say is this industry is awesome as far as being able to help each other and communicate and promote each other, get good ideas out there. So many technologies and so many people out there doing some awesome work. Wow, it's great. So whether it's associations, whether it's your peers and things like that, I'm just very blown away still just by how nice this industry is, because there's a lot of people that do want to solve these issues and have a lot of great ways of doing it. So if you do have something, if I could just encourage you to follow it through and do it, like, it can be done. So.
Yeah, and we all talk about data and the importance of data. If I stick on the commercial side of things, in aggregates, I think that less than 10% of the companies out there actually do product costing correctly, right? So you don't know how much each individual, the number of companies we go into and they go, oh, we have a cost that's for every aggregate. Or you go through and look at the definitions of fixed and variables and things like that, and it's just not correct. So something as basic to an industry as how much does this product cost? If you don't know that, there is so much other stuff that you can't know. Right? And it's you don't see a poor quarry owner very often, right? But just think if you had real insights and granularity, excuse the pun, of true data like that, what you can do to change the industry. And we talked about Amazons or whatever coming in, investing in construction materials. When that happens, I don't think it's if, I think when that happens, the industry is going to be in for just a tectonic shift, because people that really understand data, we're a service and logistics industry. When you get the logistics right, the efficiencies are huge. And not wanting to sell Inform here, but being party to some of the implementations they've done, it's mind blowing. And it's the opportunities are just huge. I think we're just kind of sloppy and lazy as an industry. Any other questions?
I got one question for I got a question for the panel. So I think we all agree that it's a conservative industry, and the industry is based on relationships and trust. And usually trust is based on familiarity. I run a startup myself, and we have some artificial intelligence tools that we use in our products. And when you're a startup, you're unfamiliar, and if you're using AI, that's an unfamiliar thing to industry. So it's quite difficult to have be a startup using AI, and you're going in and you're trying to talk to an industry that's built on trust. And so my question for you guys is do we even need to include AI? Like, we don't talk about AI when we talk about our tools. We talk about the solution, right? There's some AI that's built into the back end. And I mean, that would get rid of that confusion that David keeps on talking about around, is it an ML or what is it? But what are your thoughts on as a startup using AI? How do you sort of manage the familiarity and build that trust with the industry and not scare them away?
I think it's a great question. This is I emphasize this is my personal opinion. After 8 years as an IT advisor, AI doesn't bother me if you want to market it that way, but I know that if you're marketing AI as your primary thing for whatever your product is, my management, they're going to recoil. They may not just say no, but they're going to go, because as you said, it's a very conservative industry. My personal opinion would be that you're right on in saying, I want to market the solution. And AI is a part of it. It's fine, you can de-emphasize that. But don't just jump out there and say, I have this AI product, and they're going to immediately turn you off.
Yeah, and I enjoyed our discussions yesterday, and the demo of your technology, particle shapes and gratings and mixed designs is something that I did in a past life. And I think it's such a great example of our industry where you look at the product costing, very basic to your business. Understanding what your product is what, lots of the imaging and presentations yesterday. But to think that you have this fantastic measuring technology for textures, shapes, angularity, all those types of things, and then you have to build error into it to go back to conform to what we do today. It's insane, right? It's really crazy. And as I say, concrete is the second most used material on the planet after water, and yet the main constituent ingredient of it, you have fantastic technology and then have to add errors to it to use it. It's nuts. Right, I think we're done. Thank you, Mark. Looking forward to the next presentation. Thanks, guys. You guys.
Thank you to our panel. Our next feature presentation is one that I've been waiting for all week. This is going to be autonomous vehicles in production, and this is going to be put on by Travis Tuning, Vice President of Engineering and Operational Support at Lux Stone, and Chris Dahl, Global Communications Director from Caterpillar MindStar Solutions. Panel members, please report to the stage. Let me get out of your way.
Oh, 5 slides? Okay. Let me see. sometimes it just like says failed. It happened to me yesterday. Another option, are you able to airdrop it to me? I don't even know what that means. No worries. Oh, if it's on an iPhone, I don't think it'll work.
This is an Android.
Let's wait for that email.
Hey, don't think so. Rich, Rich? Yeah, good to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Chairman of TAC, right?
Chairman. Yeah, multiple consecutive life choices. I'm chairman of TACA, but I really run a ready-mix company up in Dallas. Okay, awesome. And TACA is the trade association that represents all concrete, aggregate, and cement production in the state. Okay, awesome. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, great to meet you. Yeah, thanks. Hey, look at you.
Yeah.
You got it?
So these are the 5 slides I have.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect.
And they'll certainly spawn a discussion, but you had asked for kind of long-term. These are.
I mean, look, everything you say is great, so it's going to be.
Okay.
Okay.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay, guys, we're ready to go for the wrap-up session. I'm pleased for the wrap-up session. We've got the famous Mr. Rich Shazy sitting beside me. I'll let him do his own introduction. He's going to start off with 5 slides just to go through this topic. For those who don't know Rich, which I'm sure there's not too many people that don't know you in the room, chairman of TACA, Texas Aggregate and Concrete Association. And I really enjoy Rich being at conferences and panels because he doesn't mind speaking what he thinks, and it doesn't always align with everybody else. So, Rich, I'll leave it to you.
Okay. Well, thanks. If y'all don't mind, I'm going to stand up. It seems to me we're all family here now. Barry and AggNexus, always thanks for coming in. Fellow panelists, thank you very much for being on this with me. Barry had asked me about 5 slides, so I'll try to go through them relatively quickly because he asked in a wrap-up session. And wonderfully, I haven't been here for 2 days, so I'm going to come into this completely cold. He said, hey, what are some immediate short-term, and long-term impacts? And I'm going to tell you I'm coming at this from a practicing standpoint. Barry introduced me as chairman of TACA. That's because of multiple consecutive poor life choices. But my real job is I run a ready-mix company up in Dallas, which is arguably the largest concrete construction market in the United States. And I happen to be in Texas, which is the largest concrete construction market in the U.S. Statistically, Dallas is about 16 to 17 million cubic yards. The state of Texas is about 60 million cubic yards of concrete per year. So we're like the 13-year-old boy. We eat everything all the time. So this is my perspective as a practitioner. When technology is introduced of any time, of any sort, it has to fit this 3-legged stool. This is the way we look at things. This is on an expense decrease, a revenue increase, or a risk decrease. And here's the challenge. It has to be edible in a unit on a dollar per yard, dollar per ton basis. That's the value determination. And that's always the challenge. Hey, if you put this product in, it's going to increase your company's value. It's going to bring value. I hate that word. I measure and I run a P&L on a dollar per yard, dollar per ton basis. If you're a contractor, it's dollar per square foot per hour. That's how we measure things. That's the metric. So a technology that somebody introduces to me today, an immediate thing, this is the buzzsaw you're going to walk into. So Barry's like, hey, we'll come in and talk to Rich. Well, okay. This is what so this is the short term. I'm sorry, the immediate. Short term. I'm going to give you a case example. Right here, right now, the state of Texas is about to build the largest single project requiring EPDs, environmental product declarations, and measure the concrete on global warming potential in the state's history. $2.2 billion. It's already 9 months behind. They haven't even turned a shovel of dirt. $2.2 billion, 3-year project, consuming anywhere from 500,000 to 1 million cubic yards. It's in Dallas. It's not a football stadium. It's the K. Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center remodel. It already exists, and they're going to spend $2.2 billion. This kicks off, and this is very nerdy. This is the South Central Low Carbon Analysis Comparison for Global Warming Potential. I highlight this line here. This is super nerdy. It's based on 28-day strengths, 28 days. Is anybody in the room familiar with a project in the history of projects that has 28 days to wait for anything? 0 of them, 0 of them. We don't. So this is happening right now, and this is the standard by which we're judging. I'm saying, hey, technology people, think bigger, and now think about things faster. We build things faster now. Hey, Rich, how are we going to build things in the future faster? Or are we going to use, I don't know, it's going to be faster. That's how we're going to build things. And so here, 24, 48, 72 hours, global warming potential. If there was only a technology that could predict numbers, that would be a wonderful thing to have. By the way, this project is going to start December, January-ish, and it's going to go like nobody's business. For those of you who are familiar with the game, what's the game with the ball where you kick it on the ground a lot? We call it soccer. The World Cup is headquartered, one of the national communication centers for the World Cup is headquartered at the K. Bailey Hutchinson Center this summer. It's going to be under construction while they're broadcasting to the world. This is very real and happening. And so I use this as a case example. And here's the last thing I'll leave with as the last thing I'm going to roll into the room. For those of you that say, hey, we have a brand new piece of unicorn dust we want you to put in your concrete. We have a way to optimize. We have a way to improve. We have a way to lower carbon. We have a way to lower the carbon footprint. And keep adding things to there because they're all normal phrases. Anybody in here an engineer or a lawyer? Anybody in here an engineer or a lawyer? Great, because I'm going to make fun of both of you because I'm a full engineer and I'm a partial lawyer. Anytime we do something in an engineering universe, we have to conform to the code. The code controls everything. Now, if any of you are churchgoers, I want you to go into your church this Sunday, stand up in the middle of the service and say, I'd like to change the book of John. I'd like to suggest a change. And I'd like you to see what the response is. That's similar to us saying we'd like to change the code on how we build things. You're going to get a similar response. This is what's known as the three-point curve. This is the bane of my existence as a producer. This is the bane of my existence as an engineer. This has to conform to the code. So anytime I change a mix design, somebody says optimize, improve something, I have to conform to this. This is 3 data points. Super sexy. And no, this is horrible representation of data, but I have to do this to conform. If only there was a way, if only there was a way to predict data differently. Uh-oh, this is 3 dimensions. This is actually time, replacement, and compressive strength. Here's a 4.5 sec, 423-pound mix design. What happens if I change that mix design to a 6 sec? What happens if I change that to a 7.5 sec? Does anybody notice a shape and consistency to the data? Do I have any math nerds in the room who would look at that and go, that's mathematically, I could model that. Gosh, if I only had a piece of software that could predict data, that could predict things. My long-term goal with artificial intelligence and looking at these things, break the code. We actually can work backwards from the answer and walk into these code requirements and go, guys, I got a technology that lets me do things in more than 2 dimensions and in real time with real data that's consistent, constant, and measurable. All of a sudden, the engineering community heads explode, and we have made an absolute structural change, pun fully intended, to how we make things. Barry, is that enough?
That is enough.
So that's the primer Barry asked me to kind of set up, and so that's what I've done. So I'm going to click that off. and then hand it back off to Barry and kind of say, thanks for having me in. We're going to answer some questions, I think, and talk about some of these concepts. But, so, thanks, Barry. I think that's enough.
Yep, great. Okay, panel, we just want to have a very, very quick reintroduction so everybody knows who you are, and then we can get in and have the conversations. I know David has to leave relatively quickly, so we'll let you speak first.
Okay, David, founder of EveryPoint. I love your passion and the presentation and the speech there and that triangle. And honestly, that's what's really important, that I think that we were having a side conversation saying that's what needs to be focused on, right? We have all kinds of unicorn dust across the board here. But to get that unicorn dust out there in the world, there has to be a burning platform. There has to be a motivation for change. And I always say it has to make money, save money, or reduce risk, which matches your triangle there.
We didn't set that up ahead of time.
Yeah, and it's just kind of a standard business thing here that really, it has to. That's how business works. So, I found a big challenge in going out into the aggregates industry is there's not enough conversations like this one. There's a lot of conversations about technology. There's a lot of conversations about, specific tasks. But elevating these conversations to what's going to drive making money, saving money, or reducing risk, and being able to then talk about technology in that context is so important. So I'm glad that you presented that, and I think there should be more conversations around that at future AggNexus events. Is what are those burning platforms out there in the aggregates industries? Get some specific examples, and then talk about how technology can go do one of those three things. I love it.
I'll follow Thomas Bergman's Inform SVP Logistics, and passionate about that. I spoke to some of you around AI, and thanks for having that triangle. I'm missing a fourth dimension, and that's the surface it spans. Yeah? And often the engineering people call that scope and so forth, so we know what we're talking. And for me, it's certainly in the short-term learnings, the positive short-term fallout of something like today should be education. I love that dust analogy. Yeah? Why? Because that unicorn dust, we all dream of that, because it's promising money and fame and what have you. But the people here in the audience first should join in to better understand who sells snake oil or who has the unicorn dust. And as part of innovation, some of it starts off as unicorn and ends up as snake oil. And is that a bad thing? No. That is how innovation works. Not everything will see daylight. And if we want to improve, and now I'm talking the long-term vision, we'll have to allow for certain failures. They're always costly, they're never fun, you end up with egg on your face, somebody will point fingers and so forth. But the long-term thing, and I'm just speaking for what I'm in for, is there will not be an aggregates truck hauling material around in a quarry or on the open road that is not controlled by some, and I use the word AI, a narrow AI system that knows what the truck is doing, what he's going to do in the very near future, and I hope we'll achieve that in less than 10 years. That is a little bit similar to what David always says. I want every point to be geo-documented or documented. Well, that's the same thing for us.
My name is Jack Delperding. I guess I'm a veteran of the industry, the ready-mix industry, because I've been at it now almost 53 years. And I come with a little different perspective that is, I've been through the whole journey. I started in a position in a little town, Sioux City, Iowa, many years ago, 50-some years ago. And just for you that are younger, to understand where I was at and where I am today and how I feel about AI and all of that, I can give you a brief synopsis of my journey. And it started in this little ready-mix company, which the selling point for that was radio dispatch trucks. Mm-hmm. Remember those? Anybody remember those days? Mm-hmm. I sure do. And everything was pen and pencil, paper. The most sophisticated piece of equipment I had, does anybody know what an electrowriter is? This guy does. Electrowriter was a machine that had a roll paper in it. That was like thermal paper. The plant was up here. I was dispatching down below. And it had a pen with a wire on it. And I would write the mix and everything up to the batch house with the yardage and everything. That was my technology. So I started in 1974 at the bottom of technology and moved forward through the whole computer age. So what came next? What came next was what I call the theoretical dispatch system. And that was Jim Wagner's trucks on a moving device that had bands, and the trucks had magnets. And as you ticketed, you would put them in a status, and it would theoretically move across according to the times, all the way till it was supposed to be back. Well, that was great, but if somebody jiggled the thing, the trucks would all come falling off, and then you'd lose exactly where you're at. So when computers came out, I was all for it. I mean, I would dispatch with no aids, really, to speak of. And there was resistance to them. As a matter of fact, the first 20 years of my career, 1974 is when I left, I still didn't have a computer. I still had a manual typewriter, believe it or not. Remember, this was a small company. So from there, what happened was that I went up to Simstone Products. They were way ahead of things. We were finally in the computer age. From there, I was in Ohio. And as things improved, I saw what dispatch was needing. I was just going after it. It was like, these are tools that we need. And I saw them as they matured. And when I went to Simstone, they had the raw kind of stations, if you will, connected to everybody connected together. Well, it was a start. And once I got to Moraine Materials and then to CRH, everything had changed. And I was putting together central dispatches all over the U.S. for them, and I was over in Europe as well. And what I saw then was I worked for a dynamic company, CRH. But what was happening and what I was noticing, while we had these great tools, we had millions of reports with that company. I mean, millions to the point where I guess you couldn't even keep track of. You couldn't get through enough reports in a day. It was all setting out there for you to go find when you needed it. Maybe you needed it a couple of times a year. But it was just mass data. So one day, Scott Parson, who was my boss, came to me and said, we may be going with the optimizer, and I need you to come in, reorganize the dispatch department. And from there, I want you to create dashboards. And I was thrilled because I saw that data, and I thought, we need data to work for us, not us looking for it. And so dashboards, live dashboards I'm talking about, I put a team together, and we created some fantastic dashboards. And what I discovered was, and my theory behind all this was, give the right people, understand their jobs, give them the right tools and data they need, don't overwhelm them, but give them something that is going to improve human performance. I know we've talked a lot about, AI on that, and that is changing the landscape, and to me, it's a quantum leap to where we are today. But I also recognize that we were just data dumb to a certain degree, and we couldn't consume it. So it made more sense, let's get it down to the users and give them something that not only made their job easier and help them be better at what they're doing, but improve their human performance. And this is where I see AI going. Where I see it going is that in the future, I've always told dispatchers, your job will become easier to a certain degree, but I will expect more from you, even though it's AI. Because you gotta be smarter. You gotta be paying attention. You gotta look for the exceptions. You gotta be aware. A computer can't necessarily feel what your contractors are feeling or necessarily how they order. So that's why I was excited to be invited to this, to come and give you kind of my journey, and it's been a long journey. But in the end, what I see and when I talk to these guys excited me because the product I saw was the future. It didn't stay in the same form. far trucks moving across the screen like the industry's been in for years and years. It was a game changer. It was a change of mindset. And then the way that they were using the data, it was like the whole new possibility opened up for me. And I wanted to get highly involved again in it because this was truly the next transition for the ready-mix business and the logistic and transportation. So I'm very thankful that I got invited here, but I just wanted to let you know my perspective is that I'm very pro-human performance. We spend a lot of time with our equipment, and we're going to do a lot with AI, which is great stuff. It's going to make us better. But we always have to remember that human performance is even more important. Because if they're operating at a high level and you have the right tools operating at a high level, you're going to be a winner in this. And I will tell you this right now, and then I'll shut up.
I didn't say anything.
You didn't say anything? Is what I've found in all these years when we had the equipment, and even today when we have the equipment, we are only using probably 40 to 60% of its capability. And why? Humans. And not having the right training, not exploring things, and learning how to use the tools better. So when AI comes along, it's definitely going to help us there. But I still need smarter people. And I always want to have that human factor where we're measuring them. We're measuring their performance against how they're using these advanced tools. We can no longer bring just any old driver in that's on injury to be in our dispatch, unless they're qualified. But the bottom line is I see a transition of our industry right now after 53 years, and it's exciting, and it should be exciting for everybody in here.
Okay, thanks. So we're quite fortunate to have two people that haven't been here for the full 3 days on the panel. So I'm going to ask you in the title of this panel, what do you see as near-term wins from a digitization standpoint for the industry?
I'll take a stab at that, Barry. I think everybody knows Travis Tuning with Luckstone. Yeah, near-term wins with digitization. I think we have a lot of folks in I'll speak for Luck in the industry, but certainly at Luck, we have a lot of folks that are eager to want to do a good job. Like we have folks that want to do better tomorrow than they did yesterday. But a lot of times they don't know how they did yesterday, right? Because we don't have the information, we don't have the visibility of information and data. So a near-term win, a real-world example is this. Cody Zimmerman, pit foreman at our Bull Run site, he wants to do better tomorrow than he did today. Well, now he realizes that he has access to amazing information, right? So he knows we're doing a lot with precision drill blast, and we're doing a lot of really exciting things in our blasting program. So now he knows, we've changed our burden spacing by 3 inches, which is a crazy thought. But with high precision GPS, we can do that now. So he knows what adjustment he's made to powder factor. He knows what he was hoping to get in the shot. He now ties his autonomous fleet to that shot. He knows what shot he's mucking in. He can now correlate all of that data literally on an hour-by-hour basis, and he knows how that shot performed from the first time he swept it up to the toe he had to dig at the back. And he knows what his cycle time performance looked like, how the crusher performed. Like he now basically has a digital twin of that process. So watching somebody like Cody on his own accord say, man, this is gold, and now has weekly meetings with his blasting team and his loader operators and begins to talk about what are we going to do next week that we learned from the last couple of weeks. Yeah, so I just think that's a near-term win for us. It's pretty exciting.
Rich?
Yeah, I'm gonna take it from a different perspective. Shocker. Is for me, I'm gonna go with you were talking about internal improvements. I'm gonna go with external. I'm gonna approach it from a first mover advantage standpoint. I work in a commodity market. It doesn't matter, and if there's people in here like, oh no, we're trying to go to performance, you're not a commodity, you're an engineered material. I'm gonna embrace the idea that we're a commodity because I can sell more if I drop my price. So, I need a first mover advantage in the marketplace. Which one of the technologies, which one of the digitization aspects can I use to give me a first mover advantage in my marketplace against my against my competitors? And I realize first mover advantage is a short-term thing. That needle constantly changes and constantly moves. How do I use the digital technology? I'm not going to repeat that word because I'm going to get it wrong as an Aggie. Is how do I use that digital technology to gain a first mover advantage with my customers and against my competitors? So to me, that's the one there. Now, I liked your point about failure. I want to come back to that because I think it's a critical one. With failure for me, I don't mind failing, but I want to fail with a partner, not on my own. You referenced finger pointing, and I get that. We've all seen that. I want a digital partner who gives me that advantage, and I've made 5 mistakes with them, and they're with me, so we find up with a better product for both of us. So the failure to me is when we miss that.
And let me add to that. Failure is always together. Must, else.
I think I'm surprised how many times failure is by myself.
Isn't always an orphan, or tries to be an orphan, but that is not how you learn out of it.
Right. His example here, he was giving with his powder, that's a partnership. Yeah. That's somebody, hey, we didn't get this right this time. Let's work together to figure this out. Nobody's pointing fingers. They're just saying, what do we do next?
Absolutely. And so, I'd like to add two, for me, very crucial elements to what you just said. The first element is, how do we determine success and failure? Measure. And we had that startup session this morning. The concept is fail fast. Yeah, not go through years before you find out that you're on the wrong track. So that needs transparency, measurement, commitment to the same numbers. There it is. Yeah.
That's how I measure.
Absolutely. First, and second, be very clear in that communication around that. Yeah. Most of these things today are started with a huge drum roll, huge kickoffs, T-shirts printed, and what have you. And after that, you can't back out. You painted yourself into, or we all painted ourselves into a wall corner. Come. And there's the point of.
There's several people in the room who've heard me say this before, and they're probably tired of it, which is when you show me a technology, my answer is, who told you how to design it this way? Because that is not what I need. Hypothetically, of course. But who was your original partner?
Absolutely.
And are they still in business? So again, I know that's harsh, but I think that this is
not harsh.
No, you know, I think that's reality.
That's important.
Yeah.
David, your thoughts on near-term? What's it like?
Yeah, I think based on all the conversations and presentations, the near-term, man, I don't know. It comes back to this. The near-term wins aren't going to happen in this industry until there's burning platforms and there's motivation, right, to change. And it needs to be business-driven. So I don't want to say it's a specific technology. It's what are going to be the pressing problems and opportunities in the industry that are in the near term. And honestly, the non-technologists are the best to answer that. What technology can do, where I think there are going to be short-term wins, is the cat is out of the bag on information retrieval with AI, and your organization and your teams learning where it's useful and where it's not in terms of retrieving information, analyzing information, and maybe a little bit of optimization. So I think you're going to see a lot of that in the coming year. It's not even really a structured project. That's just going to be all your employees just going along with all of mankind and learning how to use that to improve their day-to-day. Because at the end of the day, then it's just going to come back to which companies have the biggest burning platforms with well-expressed problems that are going to move in the next year.
I'll add one caveat to that he and I have to share on a regular basis, which is policy changes to regulations.
I can do it.
So that's the other thing that I think moves the needle. It's not an industry pull-through. And for those of you that aren't familiar with your state governments, your county governments, or how they approach regulation and policy, I would tell you to pay attention to that. If I ask by show of hands, how many people in the room want to guess how many states have mandated the use of environmental product declarations right now in their states? Is it 1, 2, 5, 12?
I don't know.
12 sounds more likely.
It's right now it's 6, and there are at least 4 others contemplating it. Do you even know if it's in your state? My point to that is there are the things outside of this room, outside of this industry, that are pulling things and changing for us that we're not aware of. And so I would always counsel on, it's not just an industry pull-through, but pay attention to policymakers and regulators. We deal with that on a constant basis, whether it's permitting
or those kind of things, they also impact our approach to short-term digital
Yeah, they
use.
create burning platforms for sure.
Well, my take on it is, I've been exposed to the whole industry, and if we're talking about, excuse me, quick or short-term wins, we've had technology for a long time. And everybody's in the ready-mix business has it. The difference between everyone in here, we've got innovators, we've got companies they're here because they want to learn how to use the next level. But on the same tone, when you look back into our own industry, from the smallest that I went in here recently, that was like going back 30 years. They're not going to be in business a long time. And their adoption rate is totally different than what the bigger companies, the innovative companies are doing. To me, when we're talking about digital change, we're talking about the winners are going to be the ones that are probably already the winners now. Because you know that when you get this technology, it isn't just set it and forget it, right? You're going to spend time, you're going to explore what you're doing. Another company I was working with that was a family-owned. They loved technology, they had good technology, but they were operating at a low level. They were still making money. But when I looked at them and said, if we did this, this, and this, and by the way, they were doing plant dispatching, and they had watchers in their dispatch department. And when I said, if we could change this environment that you're currently in is not really, when we get to AI, yes, could the plant guys still do this work, but it belongs in one central location from my standpoint. So what I've seen over the years, over and over again, is the good companies continue to be the good companies, but I think we should lift the whole industry. I really do. And we do that by, first of all, making sure what we're installing, no matter if it's AI or previous installations of software, is to make sure that we're using it. And you can walk into any ready-mix business and ask them, when did these dispatch people or anybody in your area of logistics, when was the last time they got trained on the existing software they have? They'll use it the same way because it's the easy thing. That's what they learn. I alluded that to my other comment. One of the other deals is, men like to, we don't use instructions. We just put things together and say, it's good. And we never explore further. And I think when you look at these wins, they're important, but I would like to see the whole industry, when we get to this level, be able to adopt this technology because the whole industry is lifted at that time. Will companies that use it correctly have a competitive edge? Absolutely. The big companies for sure will have an advantage. They always have because they've always adopted the right technology and used it properly. So I think that's what the big wins and even the short wins are, is where you're at today as a ready-mix producer, you have to ask you, am I getting the most from my technology before you take that giant step to going to AI and truly understanding how it works and how to integrate it into your operation.
Great. Well, I think we're just about at time, aren't we, Mark? So just a quick wrap up. This is AggNexus 2. Right? We had AggNexus 1. Last year, the big takeaway for me was from the client side of digitization was that the need for companies to work, the vendors to work closer together to truly integrate their products because people want fuller solutions than just one vendor, don't want many vendors. My takeaway from this really came from, Travis, from your presentation, something that I feel that as vendors, and clients, that we don't spend enough time on change management, which is basically, Jack, what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Because people don't like change, and we are talking, if we want to get the benefits we think are truly there, there is significant change that maybe we overlook. So that's kind of my takeaway from the last 3 days. Rich, I know you haven't been here, but what are your thoughts?
I think one of the things that we have to constantly do is work backwards from the answer. And as a mediocre engineer, I think that's always one of the things you have to do. What is the answer we're trying to achieve, and then work backwards from that. In ready-mix, we also use the phrase Tell me how you want the soup to taste, don't tell me what to put in it. Listen a little bit more as to, this is what I need. Help me do that. I may disagree slightly, a little bit, kind of with the analogy about, using the whole suite. Right now, I'm hungry. I just need 2 slices of bread. I need 2 slices of bread to make a sandwich. I don't want to buy the whole loaf of bread. I don't want to explore the whole loaf of bread. I need 2 slices of bread to satisfy the need that I have right now. To me, that's the listening aspect of what do I need and what does my customer need? Because that's the other part about this that we kind of just touched on. He and I have this issue. We have people tell us all the time of like, hey, this is what we think your business needs. You know what my business needs? More customers. So that's what I focus on, is what am I delivering to a customer? So I like to work backwards from the answer, and that's where I would kind of come at it from is, remember, we always have to work backwards from that answer from a customer standpoint.
Travis?
Yeah, Barry, I would say, I obviously just got in today for the conference, was not part of the first couple of days, but, from my perspective, between this forum that y'all have developed through AggNexus, there's a couple of other forums that have developed over the last couple of years. My takeaway is just encouragement that there's a broader growing conversation about, what does innovation and sort of folks leaning in our industry to try to find ways to unlock value that we haven't been able to in the past. The industry's been relatively quiet in that space for a long time. There's always been a few, but the industry's been relatively quiet. So my takeaway is just continued encouragement that there's folks that have a vision, have a passion for this, and want to do something. So.
Thomas? Everything has been said. I'll take you up on that 2 slice of bread discussion in a minute off the podium. I wanted to close with something, for me at least, that is relevant for the producers here in the room, not so much for the techies. Boston Consulting Group published in the last 7 days an updated study on successful scale of AI for cost reduction. And they state that 93% of the executives plan AI investments, whatever that means, AI. We touched on that earlier. But only a quarter managed to scale that effectively to cost transformation. And then they go on saying that implementation and not technology is the main barrier. And that is something I think you have been very, very clear, Travis, in the first 7 minutes of your pitch, that you avoided that. And I think if I can make a wish for next year's AggNexus, start sharing on these best practices a little bit more, because it may help one or the other to avoid that pitfall.
I agree with you 100%. One of the failures of technology being used correctly is change management. And change management is an animal in itself. That's what I did for CRH for 12 years, is travel around in an RV with my wife, reorganizing their dispatches. And I did about 20 of them, spending anywhere from 6 months to 12 months. And what I learned a lot from that. I learned the levels of how these companies were currently operating, what their weak points were, what their strong points were, and what was really lacking, if there was, in the technology they had. And most of the time, it wasn't the technology they were lacking. It was the change management. We've always done it this way. And it's made us money, so why do we have to worry about it? If our numbers look good, why do we have to change? Well, because everything changes. I always tell them this, there's one thing guaranteed in life, and that's change. So we're on the bus and away we go. But I really believe that is a critical part of any technology you bring in, because there's going to be change there. And they're going to get out of their comfort zone. They're going to see things, hopefully, they're going to adopt that very quickly and understand how it's working and how it's making them better and the business better. And like I said, I'm excited about this. My only concern is, are we going to get it in there and we're going to be successful? And is that change management going to happen within that company to get to where you want to be? I think that's a question you have to ask yourself anytime you go into a business is, where are they at now? And here's what I'm dropping in. Can they get there? And do they have the right structure and organization to be able to do that and management of it? So, yeah.
Yeah, and closing thing from me, I think what's really, really important is collectively when you're making these changes to define what success is at the beginning, and don't ever change that scope, because typically as things progress, the bling and the shiny objects, take the focus off. You should always go back to what the definition of success was, and that should always be the definition of success. Anyway, Mark, I think we're done.
Let's have a hand for our final panel. Thank you very much. It's a wrap. We will see everybody at next year's AggNexus. Thank you very much.